everyone, welcome to this new webinar according to the Research for Challenges project. Today we have a very special presenter that is going to talk about the Open Education project, and she is Dr. Carina Bossu, and I would like to talk about this presenter. Dr. Carina is a senior lecturer in academic professional development with the Institute of Educational Technology at the Open University in the UK. Previously, she was a lecturer in learning and teaching with the University of Tasmania in Australia. Her work and research have been focused in open educational resources and open educational practices in higher education and in learning, teaching, and professional development more broadly. Today, she is going to present a very special topic, and please feel free to send your comments by the social media, and we are going to answer or respond these questions at the end of the presentation. Carina, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your participation, and please, you can start with your slides. We cannot hear you.
Oh, here. Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nydia. Thanks, everyone. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And I also want to thank the Research for Challenges team for all the support they've given me in preparing for today. Have you seen the entrance, the slides opening up, counting down? Was awesome. Thank you. Okay, so they have introduced to me already. I don't need to go there, but these are my contact details if you want to get in touch. One thing that they haven't told you, though, is that I am from Brazil. And I don't speak a very good Spanish. Sorry, otherwise I would be presenting in Spanish. I can speak a bit of Portuñol, but it's not enough to give you a full presentation and make sense of it. Okay. We are going to talk about one of the projects of the GoGN network. The GoGN is the Global OER Graduate Network. And the project was about equity, diversity, and inclusion. We will talk more about it. But before I start, I want to acknowledge the people who have worked with me and have helped me to develop all of that. One of them is Francisco Inesto. I know that Paco is here. Thanks for joining us, Paco, and for, being a brilliant colleague to work all those years. I've been almost 2 years now. But before Paco, I've worked with Vivian Wladimirsky in Brazil and also Judy Patty in Africa. And without them, really, I wouldn't be able to do this work. So this project was funded as part of the GoGN network by the Hewlett Foundation. The GoGN network is a network of researchers researching open educational resources, open educational practices, open educational in general. And you might think that because we research about openness, that we are very, that we have people from everywhere. Unfortunately, most people in the network are from the global north, developed countries, and speak English. So the idea of having this project was to be more diverse and equitable and inclusive in the GoGN network, and it became broader than that. So we want to incorporate perspectives, experiences of these underrepresented communities in the Global South and Latin America in this case of this project. We also wanted to develop an EDI guideline for open education in GoGN, which we did, and I'm going to share with you the link. This is phase 2 only, which was in Latin America, but there has been a phase 1, which was in Africa, but today it's only phase 2. We have limited time, only 10 minutes to present a whole project, so I wouldn't dare to include the 2 phases. Okay, so for this phase, we interviewed 12 stakeholders. All of them were experts in open education and open educational resources, practices. Some of them were also working very closely or experts in EDI, which is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So these experts were from Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico. We had colleagues from Mexico and Uruguay. So we had quite a good representation of Latin America, the North, the Central, and also the South. We then coded these interviews, we transcribed, and then we coded and we analyzed, use NVivo. And then after that, we took these findings, the preliminary findings, to our online workshop with some of these experts. Not all of them could attend. So to some of them, to then further discuss what we found and to validate that data. We have disseminated this broadly through presentations at conferences. We have written blog posts and publications, and one of them we will share with you, which is the guideline we'll share with you today. Some of our findings were that even though, we are working and providing free support to PhD or researchers researching in open education, and these people were, the people we were talking to, were experts in open education, not all of them actually knew about the network, which was interesting. So we needed to disseminate this more. Some participants said that additional funding for infrastructure, capacity building is needed to foster EDI in open education in Latin America. The Latin America needs more researchers in open education, so another reason to disseminate not only GoGN, but the work that we're doing in open education, so people continue that work. That is important to build networks to foster collaboration among Latin American countries and beyond. One of the big things that came out of this research is language, translation, and the problem of, writing things but not being able to disseminate in English, for example. So then it can be assessed by people who don't speak Spanish or Portuguese across the globe. So maybe further translation, mostly in English, of work done in Latin America. So these were some of the findings we had in the project. Together, Paco and I then decided to write a EDI guideline using the 2 stages, 2 phases of the project, phase 1 in Africa, phase 2 in Latin America, and then put it all together and develop based on the information and data we collected and analyzed. We provide some recommendations for higher education institutions and for individuals, but also for the network we are working with. And one of the things they have already done to, taking on board the guidelines we provided, the GoGN is now giving priority to colleagues from the global South, from Latin American countries to attend some of the events they do. We are also looking at translation. There are an automated translation during webinars, for example. So there are little things we are already doing in the network that incorporates recommendations from this guideline. So if you want to access the guideline, you can use the QR code or then go on the website there. I'm going to share these slides with the team here, and you have access to those slides as well. So this was just an overview of the document that I put in the middle. Okay, so what's next? Now that we have the guideline, we did phase 1 and phase 2. So if you are planning to attend the boot camp, we will continue discussing this. We will present about phase 1 in Africa. We will further explore the findings from phase 2. We will also explain in detail, the guidelines and workshop with the people there ideas on how we progress our research further, which areas in the world we needed to look at, so we can then include other voices in the guidelines. So we are really diverse and inclusive. So we discussed that perhaps Asia would be the next region in the world that we could look at. But then it's a huge region, which will probably have to be subdivided in 3, perhaps. There are 5 areas in Asia, but maybe we can divide it in 3. We will see. So the idea is then to present a plan and then workshop with participants and see, are we asking the right questions? Which data do we need? Where else we should go? Just really open up for ideas, because I'm sure we have areas for improvement. If you want to get involved with GoGN, go to the website. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We have lots of news about open education. We provide resources, free resources, about methodology in open education or methodology in general, research methodology for PhD students, other support for PhD students as well, going through their journey, and more are coming as well as we plan our new phase, which is for the next 3 years. We are also celebrating our 10th anniversary. So you can follow us on the hashtag here and also through this Twitter tag to be informed about the news and what we are planning to do or what we are doing to celebrate the 10th anniversary. So this is now from me. I'm aware of the time. We only now have 15 minutes, and I know that some colleagues have already questions for me, for us. Yeah, so that's all for now for the presentation, but I really look forward to talk more about it with you guys now.
Thank you so much, Carina. When are you participating at the bootcamp?
I'm going to be there for the whole 2 days.
Okay, at the end of October, I think.
Yes,
right?
at the end of October, 30th and 31st.
Yeah, I think so.
30th and 31st.
Maybe we could share the information on the comments, so
yeah,
the people
great.
will know about this. Yeah, and I was surfing on the website of the GoGN, and I found that this project started in 2018.
Yes.
Were you on the beginning of this project?
Not really at the beginning. I came in 2019, so the person leading left the Open University and I took over as the lead researcher. And then, so I still had the time to then 2019 go to Africa, run the workshops and analyze the data, report. apply again for the second phase. And then I was the one leading. And I think one interesting thing to say is that it was in the middle of the pandemic and we couldn't even meet with the participants. Everything had to be online, even the workshops. So it was a bit of a struggle there, but we managed to complete.
Okay. This is a really interesting project because it's focused in Latin America region. That this is important, and just like a brief info, what are the special points that you are finding with this project? What are the experts contributing for this project?
So they said the participants when we interviewed them, they said, there are a few things that need to be done for research in open education to be more equitable and diverse in Latin America, which is, create networks amongst ourselves. Sometimes not a lot of people are doing research in open education, but those who do feel a bit isolated. So create networks, provide fund and development for students doing research, for researchers doing research in that area, mostly from, the global north, so then people doing that research can visit, can attend conferences in the global north. But a big thing that we found from experts is that they wanted help to write their papers or presenting conferences in English. So then that their work is then disseminated, because there is an impression from, they said to us, that they feel that in the global north, they feel a little bit patronized. They feel like people don't think that they don't do good research or they don't do research in open education. But this is because of language barrier. So because people in the developed countries normally don't read what's in Spanish, maybe because they don't have the language knowledge. But also, if you read about top articles and research doing in open education, they don't mention any research doing in Spanish or Portuguese or any language in the global south. Everything is in English. So there is a big emphasis on language from the participants in the data.
Yes, and I think there are some institutions across the region that are starting with this work, that they are creating materials and contents in Spanish or in their own language. But I think the most of the information is in English, and the challenge here is to promote these kind of projects from the institutions, and also from the different governments, because there are some researchers that are interested to promote these activities and create a bigger content according to the inclusion practices, but sometimes they don't have the funding enough, for example. So I think this will be very important to create awareness in the people with the institutions and with the government.
Yes, thanks, Nydia. And also context is key, because even in Latin America, it's so different. It's so different, the political orientation, the way people study, and the way the curriculum is based. So it's very contextualized, open educational resources, for example. So it's important that anyone creating open educational resources in their country understand, and thus for the context, because there is a lot of translation as well. You get a text, or you get a content that is an OER that is in English, and people just try to translate that in any other language, in Portuguese or Spanish or any Chinese. So it's not translation. It's not enough. You have to understand the context of the people, of the learners. It's important to contextualize the work in open education.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think this is part of the futures of the education that UNESCO is promoting also. So we have a really big challenge, but I think we are starting to work with these strategies in the region. So I think this is very interesting. I hope the people is also interested about the bootcamp.
Yes.
And I don't know if there are some questions. Okay, the first one is, what would be the process within higher education institutions for inclusion?
Ooh, that's a big question. We could have a whole talk about it. The process can be huge, but if we divide, so let's divide the process by stakeholders. For example, teachers, managers, policies. So let students. So let's divide. So if I go, because my field of work at the moment, so my main area of work is academic professional development. So when I talk to the academics and I help them to understand EDI, I talk about understanding their students, provide, for example, opportunities for a whole range of students you have. I teach mostly online. So then I ask if my students have any problem hearing what I'm saying, and if they have a hearing impairment, I then turn the transcription in Teams on so they can read instead of listen. So basically, in a nutshell, is to understand. Context is key. Remember, we said understand the context of your students, ask them what if they have any problem. This is one thing for practitioners. Ask them if they have any needs, and use the technology and the tools you have in hand to provide them the support they need. Sometimes some of them are neurodiverse, and that is beyond my capacity. So then I go and ask colleagues, how do I help students who are dyslexic, for example? So that's being inclusive in your practice. So that's one of the little things teachers, academics, or lecturers can do to help their students and to be more inclusive in their teaching.
And I have talked with some professors that are interested in work with these people with some, for example, that they cannot see with big understanding, or maybe they cannot hear well. But in most of the cases, they need training, and they don't know where they can receive this support. Most of the institutions don't give this training because they are not prepared also. So even working with the same kind of disability is to work with each person, because each person is different, even that they have the same disability. So I think this is one of the bigger challenges, because the institution should be prepared first to give training to the professors, yes, and also to create or to build these structures in technical for
Yes.
technical structures, and also for the within the institution, within the buildings. This is a big challenge.
Yes, it is. You're right. So this, then you move to the other stakeholders, which is great. So while I gave some suggestions for teachers or professors to how they could support some of their students, because we have many students, it's impossible, like you said, it sometimes is work individually with some of their students. But universities then needed to prepare the professors, or needed to provide resources, policies, training for them to know what to do, and even how to ask the questions, because some students don't want to disclose that information. They feel very embarrassed. So yeah, it is an important topic, but it's a very delicate one.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if we have another question. What will you focus on in the bootcamp?
So thanks. I think I've mentioned that briefly, but thanks again. Thanks for this other question, which is they are very good. So we will further explore some of the findings of phase 1, because I really just scratched the surface. We will provide also the difference between the two phases, what we found in Africa, and what then more information about Latin America. And then we will also workshop, like provide some activities and ask you guys, the participants, questions on how we can improve, or what else we could do to support EDI in open education. So I hope you are there, the person who asked the question.
I think this is important to be clear with the people, so we can get more information about this project. I think we have 3 more questions, but I don't know if we are on time. So please let us know. Or
Yeah, no, I would be happy to answer them briefly. Yeah,
okay.
if you want, if I can.
Okay, the next one is, how can emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence be used to promote equity in open education?
That's a big question. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one because in many ways they can help, and sometimes they don't help. But again, I would just go back to the basics and think about what, if you wanted to think about practice, because this is like emerging tech, this is a very broad question, but if you want to think about practice, is understanding at institutional level, if you are teaching, if you are a professor trying to be more inclusive, more equitable, is to understand your students, understand the policies of your institution, and what you can use there to then support your student in an equitable way. So they can all succeed. They can all make the most of their learning.
And also for this, the professors should be prepared to use these technologies and to make the most of these tools that are emerging.
Yeah, but capacity building is important, and the institution has to be aware of those and provide those resources to professors, because otherwise the burden is always in the professor or the teacher in general, university teacher, school teacher, all teachers. The burden is on the teacher only, who are already overloaded with work and trying their best to support their students. So yeah, institutions need to help.
Okay, and the next one is, what are the strategies for achieving equity in science?
I'm not from science, so I I wouldn't be able to give you a specific answer in a with a disciplinary focus, but I would say that the options we discussed here would serve for, all disciplines.
And the last one is, how can networking be done in the bootcamp?
Oh, so I think there will be lots of opportunities for people to network while there. I'm not sure if the bootcamp will also have a separate, people will be online. Do you know, Nydia, if people will be online in the bootcamp? Because then if it is online, it's harder to network, because it makes it harder. It's possible, but it's harder. Being there face to face, there will be lots of opportunities for network. There will be breaks, but there will be also working in groups. For example, Paco and our presentation will be an interactive one with a workshop. Others will have as well. So there will be lots of opportunity to network. And I think we will also be able to not only present, but also introduce ourselves. So I don't think that will be, as long as you're there, I think it will be a very positive and interesting experience.
Yeah, and I think if there is an online version, it will be available in the website, in the official website of this Research for Challenges project.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again, Carina, for being here. And I think we are happy to hear about your project that you are presenting in the bootcamp. And if the people let us know any other question, we will let you know by email. So thank you so much, and thank you to all the people that were here.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Paco. Francisco Niesto is there. So he did say we are presenting, Paco and I are presenting on Monday morning, the 30th, isn't it? Because I think you put the dates of the presentation, the bootcamp here, 29, 30, 31st. And we will be presenting on Monday morning. So thanks, Paco, for that. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the support, team. And it was a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you guys there online if you are attending online the bootcamp. All the very best. Take care. Bye-bye.